Okay. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Saturday edition of Morning Scone, presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com, Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com, and ProCharge, ProChargeEV.com. All right, y'all. Good morning. Hope you had a great week. Happy Saturday, everybody. Tigers are back on the practice field actually right now. It's a little before 10. The family Scone slept in on this Saturday, and I got Drew this morning, so I was not able to make it to practice. So this will be the first LSU practice or media availability so far fall camp I've not been able to attend. Happens, but anyway. They had player interviews on Friday. And no practice availability. Today, practice availability, and Matt House will meet with the media. So we'll hear from LSU's DC around noon today. And then no availability Sunday. That's an off day. And then for the team. And then Monday, we have practice availability again. So after today, Monday will be the next time we get to go watch practice. And we'll kind of be able to give you a full report then. So yeah, if y'all got questions about anything up to this point in camp, fire away. In the description there, I have a title about Omar Speights because ESPN released their top 50 transfers or newcomers in college football this year. They had Omar Speights number 7 on the list. Number 7 in the entire country, and the highest among the LSU players. Now, interestingly, maybe even more so than oh, look at that. Jaden Daniels is on the front page of ESPN.com right now. What coaches are saying about LSU's Jaden Daniels and 46 other passers. Interesting. Okay. Get to that in a second. But the 50 best newcomers or transfers freshmen, they have Travis Hunter from Colorado. Remember, former 5-star who Dion got to Jacksonville State. He's at Colorado with Dion now. They have him 1. Sam Hartman 2, of course, who left Wake Forest to go to Notre Dame. Shadur Sanders, Dion's son, is going to be the quarterback at Colorado 3. Fentrell Cypress, the DB at Florida State, number 4, who left Virginia to go to Florida State. Dominic Lovett. Dominic Lovett was a wide receiver who was all SEC last year at Missouri and is now at Georgia. Deshaun McCullough, who's a linebacker who went from Indiana to Oklahoma. And then Omar Speights. They have Omar Speights number 7 on the list. They got Zy Alexander number 10. Interesting. A spot ahead of Devin Leary, quarterback who left NC State and went to Kentucky. So I thought that was really interesting to have Zy Alexander that high. And then they have Denver Harris, number 13. That's the one where you look at the list and go, because whoever put this together, and it was Tom Van Haren, he missed the mark because Deuce Chestnut's not on the list, and Deuce Chestnut is easily LSU's number 1 corner. He's the guy that has locked down a number 1 spot today. So it's going to start with 22, Deuce Chestnut 22. But it's interesting there about Speights, and I kind of believe it. I did some digging yesterday. Speights has played 48 games and has 308 tackles. If you combine your next 2 linebackers, which are Greg Penn and West Weeks, not including Perkins, right? Because we know Perkins is starting inside. But the starter, think of it this way, you knew Perkins is moving inside. Had they not gotten Speights, it'd be Penn and West Weeks as your next 2 guys. Penn started 14 games last year. He started all 14 games last year. And West Weeks started 1 game at Virginia as a freshman. So they've combined for 15 starts and 150 tackles in their careers. Speights has 308 tackles. And has played 48 games. So you got a ton of experience and a ton of production at a spot next to Harold Perkins that will allow him to sort of be Harold Perkins. So yeah, man, I think they got it right with Omar Speights. The one they missed was not having Deuce Chestnut on the list. Let's say some good mornings. See what y'all got. Brad David, good morning. Matthew Gardner. Finally scored a Coy Hill. Good for you, man. It's hot. Give it time to open up. That's a whiskey. Jack Daniels Coy Hill. Leon Williams, good morning. Mike the Tiger 2023 Natty Champs. I could find 104.5 in Thibodeau in my car. Good. I'm surprised you got 104.5 down in Thibodeau. You can get 100.3 in Thibodeau. The stick for 100.3 is in LaRose, so you can get it down to the Bayou region. You probably get it better in the Bayou region than you can across New Orleans. Josh Geraldo, what have you seen out of Aaron Anderson so far? He is a special athlete. He's small, but he can move, and I believe he will be your starting punt and kick returner. I think it's him or Greg Clayton, and I think Aaron Anderson has probably established himself there. And look, when they ran 11 on 11s Thursday, the first play they ran was a shovel pass. So Anderson was coming across the formation in motion. They snapped the ball and they shoveled it to Anderson coming across the formation. So they are going to use him in a lot of different ways. I don't know how or why he left Bama, but that's a big get for sure. Burgers for Heisman. Morning, Matt. Hoping you were taking us with you to practice, Bummer. So, no, we can't do that, unfortunately. We can only shoot the first 15 minutes of practice, and you can't report or post anything until practice is over, so like noon. So they're probably letting them in right now, or in about 10:15, they're going to let them in, and you can shoot for about 15 minutes, and you can stay for the rest of practice. Austin Kidder, good morning. I might be the minority, but I'm loving this conference realignment. It's survival of the fittest programs, moving us closer to meaningful games every weekend. Yeah, man, it's been my point all along for sure. We're gonna have a whole lot more games that matter. Yes, and it's gonna make for a better TV product. It's gonna make for a better fan product for people attending games. You're gonna cut out a lot of the garbage games that nobody wants to see. You've already heard they're talking about sort of examining the playoff format, because the way that it's structured right now, not that they're going to change the number. I mean, I think it'll still be 12, but it'll be 12 teams. But remember, the way the 12 are chosen is the top six the highest ranked conference champions, the top six highest ranked conference champions, and then the six at large are just the top 16 non-conference champions. So think of it in terms of the Power Five, and the highest ranked group of five conference champion would get auto bids, and then six at large. Well, you're not going to guarantee the Pac whatever an auto bid, right? Yeah, I mean, so I think what they'll end up doing is we got to wait and see what happens with. Sorry, I was playing it out in my head. We got to wait and see what will happen with Stanford and Cal, and if the Pac-12 decides to reform in some merger with the Mountain West. But either way, I don't think they're getting an auto bid. So maybe it's the top five conference champions, the Power Four plus a G5, which now would be, I guess, a G6, however they format it, however they word it. But and then 7 at-large spots, maybe. But either way, you're one step closer to getting, a true merit-based system as far as the playoff. Brad David, how did Notre Dame become such a national brand back in the day? They won a lot. I mean, started with Newt Rogney in the 20s, and then Frank Leahy. I mean, they won a lot, and because they won a lot, they became really well known, and people wanted to go there, and they built a brand and won Heisman trophies, and then they got their TV deal with NBC when not everybody was on TV every week, and it's just that everybody else caught up to them. Everybody's on TV now. The internet shrunk the world. Brian Penton, good morning from San Antonio. Headed to Owassa, Oklahoma. All right, man, be safe on the road. Gregory Gordy, good morning. Brad, are you old enough to remember 95 Nebraska? Looking at the schedule, they dominated every game. Yes, I do remember 95 Nebraska. I remember very vividly watching Tommy Frazier and Lawrence Phillips and that crew hang 62 on Florida in the Fiesta Bowl that year to win the national championship. Antron Hemingway, good morning. Russell Doloff, good morning. Zachary Snyder, good morning. Looking forward to the day we have a March Madness in college football. Less opt-outs when you're playing for a championship. That's so true. Instead of a Cheetos trophy. It's so true. Guys will stay and play when they're playing in a true playoff. And remember, and when you still have a chance to make it. Think about this. If you lose, let me throw a hypothetical. Let's say LSU loses to Florida State, and let's say they drop a game early. Like, let's say they lose at Ole Miss, but then they win out. They beat Florida, they beat A&M, they beat Bama in Tuscaloosa, they beat Auburn, they win out. They go to the SEC championship game. Or let's say they don't go to the SEC championship game. Well, they beat Bama. Because I could see a scenario where if LSU loses 2 games, goes to, well, either way, goes to the SEC, or let's say they lose 3 games, and they're 9-3, or they have a chance to get to 9-3 in September, right? And push yourself toward a playoff berth. Who's leaving? So you struggled early, you got good late. I mean, it happens. I think about 2001 LSU all the time with this example. That team was 5-3 in the league. They were 5-3 in the league. And they won the West. They won the West at 5-3. And they were playing their best ball late in the season. They went to Atlanta and they beat number 2 Tennessee, and then they blew out Illinois in the Sugar Bowl. And that team finished the season, I think, ranked 8th in the country. And I just look at that and I go, like, that is the example of a team, or LSU last year, a team just improving as the season goes along. So why shouldn't you be allowed to get better as the season goes along? People go, well, it makes every game matter. No, it doesn't. It makes every game not matter. Like, that's the contradiction with college football that's forever been. It's they force-fed you this line about how every game matters, when if you look at it in reality, the opposite is true. Because if you're then eliminated from any type of contention in September, then what are you playing for? And the players are telling you that. They don't want to go play in the Cheez-It Bowl. Kirk Taylor, good morning. Ben Boudreaux, any cool plans for the weekend? Yeah, man, Eric and I are going to go to Best Dress Ball tonight, so looking forward to that. If you've never been, highly recommend it to anybody. It's in downtown Baton Rouge. It's an excuse to put on a tux and dress up and just go eat good food and have a few cocktails, listen to some good music, and raise money for the American Cancer Foundation, or American Cancer Society. So, looking forward to it. Looking forward to being there tonight. Jeremy Sagely, good morning. Corey Valet, coffee with Scone. Alton Trahan or Trahan, not sure how you say it, but good morning, Alton. Jeff McKithen, good morning. Tom Granite, good morning. David Tolson, not sure why the ACC is entertaining bringing in the remaining Pac-12 schools, or are they really doing their due diligence and considering bringing them to the ACC? They voted, and they were 1 vote shy of admitting Stanford and Cal. I think probably the ultimate hang-up is, like I talk about all the time, y'all, does adding schools and realignment grow the pot big enough to where everybody's share gets bigger? And I think the word with the ACC and adding Stanford and Cal was no. And still, they almost got there. Gary Atchison, good morning. Y'all do me a favor and smash that like button. If you're watching live on YouTube, please subscribe up to the channel. Facebook, please like the Matt Moscona page, share the post. We appreciate y'all for being there. Jamie Hodges, good morning. Brendan Huff, LSU has so many weapons at wide receiver. How do you see the rotation? So I can just tell you what they've done so far. It's Neighbors, Lacey, Brian Thomas are your first three at the XYZ. Chris Hilton has been the next guy in, and Shelton Sampson. But they've also used Aaron Anderson, like I mentioned, at a lot of different spots in the formation. So Anderson, I kind of put an asterisk by because he's probably the next guy. They're kind of using him in a non-traditional sense in that he's lining up anywhere, like at any of the receiver spots, out wide in the slot. He's coming across the formation. I think they're going to hand him the ball this year. I hate to say like Trendon Holiday because I don't want you to think it's just like a track guy that's a gadget guy, but I think he's just a versatile guy that they're going to use a lot of different ways. But those are the guys right now. I'll tell you if I had to pick my top six, that's them. Radel Offrecht, can you speak on LSU's secondary depth? Sure. So on Thursday when we got to watch him go into a nickel package, we actually saw Sage Ryan run first at nickel, and they moved Greg Brooks back to safety with Major Burns, and it brought Andre Sam off the field. But when we watched 11 on 11 and they were in base, Sam was back on the field and at safety, and they had Greg Brooks at the nickel. So at corner, Chestnut and Zy Alexander have been running first team, and I think that sticks. It was interesting that nickel package or series I just mentioned to you, Ashton Stamps, the freshman from Rummel, was the first guy to rotate in. Denver Harris is still running third team. We had seen LaTerrence Welch be the next guy rotating in, but they gave Ashton Stamps those reps. I would have been really interested to see how it would have looked if J.K. Johnson hadn't broken a bone in his foot. So that's disappointing. He's going to be out for a while. The Ohio State transfer cornerback, he's the one riding around on a scooter. But right now, he's got that thing where you kneel on the scooter, So anyway, I was talking to him the other day at practice. He was rolling by me on the scooter. I was like, "How you doing, man?" He goes, "Shoot, man, I'm gonna run 26 miles an hour when I get off this thing." He was joking. I started laughing. He goes, "Seriously, as strong as my left leg's gonna be, because you gotta push, like almost like you're pushing like a skateboard." So it's funny. Cole Cochran, good morning. Said go Noles. All right, appreciate you watching, man. I'm hoping for a good game, man. I think it will be. Really, I mean, I think we're gonna have a good game. I also think it's funny that the Seminoles, that they're the emoji a lot of people use for Florida State is a kebab, because it looks like a spear. C. Trey 193. Good morning. This defense may surprise some people this season. Matt House is very underrated, in my opinion. Yeah, so I don't think Matt House is underrated, at least not among LSU people. I think what he did last year was pretty masterful, considering the limitations they had. An entirely new secondary. I mean, you lost Mason Smith in the first defensive series. You only had 3 defensive tackles that you rotated, so they played Ollie Gay on the inside a lot. They had to get very creative a year ago, and I thought him sort of mixing and matching the way he did was pretty brilliant. I think he's also a great in-game coach. his ability to adjust in game. Ole Miss is probably the most notable game where they started off on skates, and once they adjusted to what Ole Miss was doing, they put him in a chokehold. So I agree with you completely. I think LSU's defense is going to be fine. They got a lot of talent on the field. We got some things that got to work out. I'm curious who's going to be edge rusher. I'll tell you a guy we haven't talked about really at all who looks really good is Savion Jones. He's playing that big end spot where Ali Gay was a year ago, and he's a monstrous dude, man. He can eat up double teams. He can win one-on-ones. He can help you in the run game. When they were in 11 on 11 on Thursday, he had a big stuff of Jaden Daniels when there was a pass rush and Daniels tried to escape left and Savion Jones got a stuff at the line of scrimmage. So I think he's a guy that's going to be very valuable this year. Cole said, I enjoy your content to start the year. Thanks, Cole. I appreciate it, man. It's cool that we got Florida State people tuning in. That's pretty normal that you seek out content of the team you're going to play. It's another reason I love those marquee season openers, man. Like, it's an opportunity to get excited about week one and play an opponent you don't always see. And I think Florida State's going to be really good, man. I mean, they got really hot to end last year. I think they were 3-3 to start the season, and then, they caught fire. So they're returning everything they did. I mean, I'll candidly, if we went back and looked at all of the pre-game chatter last year before LSU and Florida State, I don't remember, but I would be willing to bet if you went and pulled everything I said, I would have been saying LSU's got a huge advantage at quarterback with Jaden Daniels over Jordan Travis. And there was a reason for it. I mean, Daniels had played a ton of football, and Daniels played well in that game. But what I underestimated was how good Jordan Travis was in that game, because LSU could not get him off the field on third down. And you bring Travis back, and you bring back guys like Jared Verse, and why do I always want to say Johnny Patrick, the big 6'7" wide receiver who transferred from Arizona State? He was Jaden Daniels' receiver at Arizona State. Johnny Wilson. But I always want to say Johnny Patrick. Johnny Patrick was a defensive back out of Louisville that the Saints drafted years ago, like a decade ago. Let me see what year. I don't know why Johnny Patrick keeps popping into my head. Y'all remember Johnny Patrick? Wow, you want to feel old? Johnny Patrick's only 34 years old. That felt like it was forever ago. He was drafted in round 3 of the 2011 draft. Johnny Patrick. All right. Henry Gordon Bennett, good morning. Was just watching Clyde Edwards-Helaire's highlights against Bama in 2019. He was a one-man show that game. He was awesome. The play of the game, there were two. I mean, he obviously sealed it with the late in the game with the bull rush. But when Burrow threw him that ball in the flat on the 3rd and 7 or whatever it was, and he basically caught it off his shoestrings and went up the right sideline and just ran over a guy. Clyde was awesome, man. It's so interesting too, because I remember when he committed to Les, if y'all remember. And I saw every game. I called every game Clyde played in high school. At Catholic, I called every single game. And he was his first, when Dale Weiner was the coach at Catholic, freshman never played varsity, ever. Travis Minor didn't, Major Applewhite, none of them never played varsity as a freshman. So Clyde was the first ever freshman that played varsity at Catholic under Weiner. He said Geis would have, but Geis had some grade stuff he had to get in line as a freshman, and so they didn't want to put that on him. So I saw all of Clyde's games, and I remember when he committed to LSU, and I was like, I don't get it. And it wasn't a Clyde thing. It was because of how Les ran his offense. That's what we lose sight of. Like, Les's backs were Fournette and Jeremy Hill and Kenny Hilliard. It was big 230. It was a 6 foot, 230-pound backs that were power backs, right? I mean, that's what Les recruited. He didn't. Jacob Hester, Charles Scott. Like, Les didn't use the 5'10", 185-pound running back. That wasn't part of his offense. And so I remember when Clyde committed, I was like, look, I love Clyde, I love the player. I don't see the fit in this offense. Clyde has deceptive power, but he's not a dot-the-I back that's going to run behind a fullback, which is what Les wants. And Les getting fired was a great thing for Clyde. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it was. I mean, because opening up the offense and sort of modernizing the offense allowed Clyde to show his versatile skill set. And as he waited his turn and became what he was his junior year, all SEC and first-round pick and everything. I remember saying when Clyde committed to LSU, I was like, if Clyde went to Kentucky, like, he could play in the SEC. So, like, if Clyde went to Kentucky, he would be the greatest player in the history of that program. Like, he'd be their best back, he'd be in their Hall of Fame, jersey retired, all that stuff. Like, and I just threw out Kentucky, just meaning, like, he could play in the SEC at a place like that and be the best back they ever had. Hey, Dad. Good morning, Bubba Smith, Alfred Jackson. This team is scary, but all that to say, I'm glad Clyde picked LSU. Alfred Jackson. This team is scary, talented. Can't wait to see them put it all together. They definitely have talent. I mean, that's when you look at the whole the eyeball test. The all airport team. They look good getting off the plane. This team does. They're big and strong and fast and run fast and jump high and all. I mean, they got all that stuff. Carly Cat, good morning. Kobe Walker. Let's see, Brad, you said Les was secretive with injury reports. Was Ogeron better? Yeah, Ogeron would tell you stuff. Yeah, for sure. Cajun Country saw Paul Skeens pitching that Little League ballpark. I'm not sure he was really trying. Yeah, he was pitching in rookie ball, which is low A. He only threw one inning. So it was basically a glorified bullpen. Travis Michel, good morning from Longhorn Country. All right, Travis, appreciate you for tuning in, man. Let's see. Michael Castello, good morning. Damon Gilmore, MJ, I bet my good buddy $200 we beat his Nolas next month. Okay. I think it's a good bet. I mean, LSU's favored in the game. I think that line is hovered around a pick, and right now it's LSU 2.5. And I think as we get closer, it'll probably go up. Yeah, I mean, I think LSU should be favored in the game. I don't know if they could have played worse last year and still were block PAT away from sending it to overtime. Antron, said, Matt, are you watching the game tomorrow? Of course. Saints, Chiefs, noon. I will be locked into it, man. I'm fired up. I'm a preseason nerd, y'all. I mean, I self-admitted preseason nerd because I think it's always important when you figure out who's going to win roster spots 51, 52, 53, and especially on this team because this Saints team, if they keep Jimmy Graham and Jake Haener, that's a fourth tight end and a third quarterback. You don't typically do that. So you're going to have to cut somewhere that you would like to have a luxury piece, an extra defensive back, an extra offensive lineman, something like that, right? So who do you cut? If you keep those guys. So I think it's pretty fascinating. They've got to maximize their roster this year more than any if they're going to keep Graham and Haener. Gregory Gordy, on AFR, you compared this year's backfield to prior LSU backfields in the past. Compare this year's talented running back stable to a previous team Kelly coached at Notre Dame and how he used the talent. So he never had this many guys. But he has used multi-back systems. Look, he did it last year with Logan Diggs. And I would say the big thing if you, how about this? How about this? I got one for you. Here you go. So 2015 was when Deshaun Kaiser was their starter, and they ran Deshaun a lot. So they used C.J. Prosise, who had 156 rushing attempts, Josh Adams, who had 117 rushing attempts, and then Kaiser had 134. Now Malik Zaire was also on that team, backup, had 19 carries. Dexter Williams was a young running back on that team that had 21 rushing attempts. So, and then you had young guys like Tarian Folston, Torrey Hunter Jr., who Josh Anderson, who all got like less than 10 carries in the season, just like a blowout, and they got in the game. But 15 is probably your best example where they lean on two backs and the quarterback. So I think that's probably the closest thing that they've, like, and in that year, Prosise had 1,032 yards and Adams had 835. So that's probably the closest example I could give you of when he had a running quarterback who had more than 100 rushing attempts in a season. But I still think 2011 LSU is the model you look at, where they had Ware and Ford, who both had 150 carries. And then you had guys like Blue and Hilliard, who both had 75 carries. So it's four backs that got a lot of play. You had Jordan Jefferson as your quarterback, who ran a bunch as well. And then, Terrence McGee was like the fifth running back who got some play. And I think that's probably what you're looking at this year. I'm pretty fascinated to see how it all works out. I mean, I think that your three primary guys are going to be Josh Williams, Logan Diggs, and John Emery. But we've seen Armani Goodwin take reps with the ones. We've seen Noah Cain take reps with the ones. They just got a lot of bodies there. I mean, it's, I think it's safe to say the freshmen don't play much. Although, Caleb Jackson looks really good. I mean, he's, I didn't realize, and Justin Vincent said this on AFR yesterday too, and I didn't even ask him, but he said it unsolicited. I didn't realize how big Caleb Jackson was, the freshman from Liberty in Baton Rouge. I mean, he looks like a linebacker playing running back. So I think he's going to be a really, really good back. It's just not going to be this year. Let's see. Joey B19. It's disappointing Jay couldn't get Braden Montgomery to come here after a season like the one we just had. Goes to show you, man. You can have everything to offer, and a recruit can still not pick you. It's just, every recruit is looking for something different. All you can do is make your best pitch. Tony Dolby, good morning. Joey Metke, Cliff Nelson, Austin Kidder, see Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg agreed to a charity fight. I heard that they weren't going to fight. I thought that they were going to do like a battle of the wits or so, like a debate or something like that. Two rich nerds. I must have watched them fight. Oh my God. I don't know, Austin. I don't want to watch them fight. Wendell Norman, good morning. Cliff Nelson, good morning. Is Anderson as fast as Hilton? Cliff, I don't know. If you're just talking like straight line speed, like track, I really don't know. They are dramatically different sizes, though. I'll tell you, Chris Hilton, I know I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. I think Chris Hilton physically has been the most notable, like, physical transformation. Like, since he came here from Zachary, he's transformed his body. Like, they list him at 6'1", 190. I don't buy that. I mean, that can't be right. Maybe it's just wearing 17, which are like 2 long digits, makes him look taller, but he looks bigger than 6'1", 190. I mean, he looks good. Chris Hilton looks really good in the uniform. Is this the most talented team Brian Kelly's ever coached? I will say yes. Because I said last year that last year was the most talented team Brian Kelly ever coached, and this team is more talented than last year. So yes, I would say this is the most. Hang on one second, y'all. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. And actually, that whole most talented team Kelly ever coached thing, I remember Tony Barnhart said the same thing to me at SEC Media Days last year. So, yeah, I do think this is the most talented team he's ever coached. Cliff, is Sage Ryan just not as good as advertised out of high school, or is this the year he breaks out? Cliff, I don't have the answer to that. But I think getting the answer to that question this year is going to be critical for 2 reasons. Number one, I think, so it is very fair to say that Sage Ryan with 5-star, like the guy who keeps posting all the time about not getting the edge guy, Colin Simmons, and how devastating that is and this and that. Like, Sage Ryan's a great example. He was a 5-star. Everybody in the country wanted him. You got him through 2 years. He has just not played up to that expectation. Now, it's not an expectation that he asked for. He didn't ask for the recruiting services to make him a 5-star and all this sort of stuff. But it has been slow to develop for Sage Ryan. And as a result, Greg Brooks' best spot on the field is at nickel. But that's where Sage Ryan plays. And last year when they rotated Greg Brooks out and Sage Ryan in, there was a notable drop-off. Now, this team may need Greg Brooks to play safety if Andre Sam or somebody else can't step up and prove they can play at this level. So if Greg Brooks has to go back and play safety, then Sage Ryan has to play nickel. And so you need him to be, like, either way, you need a big season out of Sage Ryan, or someone else has to step up and be your nickel back that you're not expecting. Or safety, right? So yes, if Sage Ryan breaks out this season, that would be a massive thing for LSU, because that is a position where you don't feel great about, based on what you've seen, you don't feel great about the number 2 guy. C. Havan 30. Scone, what's going on? Preseason expectation LSU in the CFP. I'm with it, man. I think that's a very reasonable expectation. LSU's got the 5th best national title odds. Jaden Daniels has the 2nd highest Heisman Trophy odds. Yeah, I mean, I think it's not to say, like, definitively they will get there, but that is a reasonable expectation this year. Yes, it is. Zachary Snyder, defense last year was a hold on till halftime, made adjustments, locked down second half. Heck of a defensive coordinator. Michael Castello, I think this defensive front 7 is going to wreck a lot of teams, help the DBs get better. That is one thing that, as we've talked about, the receivers having the upper hand on the defensive back so far in camp, that is one thing that I have also been trying to be quick to point out is, when you get into an actual game and the field shrinks and you have a pass rush, that makes things easier on the defensive backs. So, yes, I do agree with that. Let's see, Austin. Let's see, Florida State fans are cool, but we won't allow USC fans on Morning Scone next year unless they denounce their 2003 media championship. You know, Austin, I am not mad at USC for 2003. It's not their fault. Like, it's college football's fault for having such a stupid, flawed system. And what I've always said and by the way, Austin, nobody, when you talk about 2003, nobody mentions USC because LSU won the BCS and they have the crystal ball, and so nobody talks about it. But my point is, and it's always been, that if the shoe is on the other foot, and if LSU got left out of the game, and the AP voted LSU number 1 and gave LSU an AP national championship, LSU would claim it and we would all celebrate it. And we would, like, if the shoe was on the other foot, we would have behaved the same way that USC did. And rightfully so. Like, it's an illustration of why the system sucks. Like, wouldn't you have loved to have seen that game? I would have loved to have seen that game. That'd have been great. But we didn't get to see that game because, you know, the Rose Bowl and the pretty sunset and the 2-team championship determined by a computer formula and blah, 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 whatever. Brennan Huff, Noah Kane seems to be the goal line back. Could be. Armani Goodwin's a really strong runner too. We just didn't get to see Armani. Armani led LSU in yards per carry last year. When he ran hard, bro. He was hard to get on the ground. Like, dreadlocks coming out of the back of his helmet and stuff. Just high knees, keeps him churning. You know, big trunk. He's a fun guy to watch run. Don't sleep on Armani Goodwin. Robert Collins, good morning. Old news. Why did Corey Raymond leave LSU? Seems like a slight drop off in cornerback talent since he left. How much did his departure hurt LSU? Corey wasn't retained. Brian Kelly, the only coach from Ed Ogeron's staff that was retained was Brad Davis, the offensive line coach. So Corey wasn't retained. And there's definitely been a drop off in talent, but as you know, a giant part of that was Ricks and McLaughlin transferring. Like, if you had Ricks and McLaughlin on the team a year ago, you wouldn't have had the need to go get all the transfers you did. And those were all one-year guys, and so then you had to do the same thing again. But what it's done is allowed Brian Kelly to build 2 recruiting classes of freshmen behind him. So you've got LaTerrence Welch, you've got Jordan Allen, you've got all the freshmen on this team like Ashton Stamps. And then you'll have another wave, Toviano, who they like a lot. You have another wave coming behind them. So they're rebuilding it. So they had a stopgap with transfers while they built up the high school talent again, which is kind of what they're doing now. Let's see. Matt, curious how you feel about this. Kind of irks me when in a press conference, media calls the head coach by the first name instead of coach. I tend to call the coach by his first name. He's not my coach. I think either's fine. But I mean, I know I do that. I don't know why it irks you. I mean, all I can do is provide a media perspective. Like, I guess the difference is we see and talk to these people all the time. I think if you're a fan and you just watch from afar, there's probably a degree of reverence. Like, oh, that's Coach so-and-so. But whenever you're around them all the time professionally, I guess maybe there's just more of a humanization where it's just people. It's just like, it's probably a thing that's hard to understand, but like, that's work for us. Like, that's a job that you're doing. It's a professional setting in the same way that when you go to work and see people around the office, you call them Bill or Steve or Janet or whatever, it's just people you work with. So, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. I can't change the way you feel about it, but I can only give you an explanation as to why. Like, I see Brian Kelly every day, darn near every day. Like, he's just Brian Kelly. He's the LSU football coach, but I mean, I saw Scott Woodward last Saturday at Catholic High Grizzly Greats, and he came up and said hello to me. Which should I have called him athletic director Mr. Woodward? I mean, I just called him Scott. Man's name is Scott, you know. Let's see. Michael Castello, I think a lot of people expected Sage to be great because of Stingley coming in and being great. They play different positions too. Stingley was a corner, and Stingley should never be compared to anybody the way, I mean, his freshman season he was the best cornerback in America. I just think, honestly, Michael, it's people saw 5-star and had great expectations. Same thing like with Deshaun Womack right now. I'm going to tell y'all, Deshaun Womack has a ways to go. I thought they were going to have him playing Jack. Basically like what Perkins did a year ago. They do not. They have him playing the big defensive end spot behind Savion Jones. And I'm going to tell you right now, brother, there is a massive drop-off behind Savion Jones at end. Quincy Wiggins is running 2, and Quincy looks physically looks awesome, but so often when you're playing that big end spot, you're taking on double teams is what you're doing to free up the linebackers, and he has gotten moved a lot by Emory Jones and Miles Frazier when they run those drills. So better hope 35 stays upright this year, because I'm telling you, there's a big drop-off behind Savion Jones right now. Not to say guys can't improve, get better and all that stuff, but right now, there's a big drop-off. Smash a like button. Man, we've got 132 watching, only 47 likes. If you would just take a quick second, smash that like button. I'd appreciate it. Listen to you, Rock.
Smash that like button.
Zachary Snyder, Callan, Stanford to the ACC on life support. Clemson, FSU, Carolina, NC State voted against it. Just at bottom of TV. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I don't know why the ACC would add them. If there's not a monetary value in adding them, you don't add them just to add them. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think Stanford's best bet is probably to go independent. I mean, those 4 schools. Stanford has said they want to. Hey. Okay. Got him. Yeah, I know Stanford has said they want to keep playing Power 5 football, and the most logical choice would be for the 4 remaining schools in the pack to join with the Mountain West. Be the Mountain Pack, or I mean, I guess whatever they want to do. I don't care, but I get why. If you're You're welcome. So, something you may not know is that Erica is deathly afraid of geckos. Like, the other day I came home, I guess Drew, like, a lot of days when I get home, Drew likes to go ride around. So I'll get home, I'll eat dinner, and then I'll take Drew for a ride. He just wants to ride around the car, pass by. He loves passing by the Baton Rouge General, whatever. And so I come home, and Erica's standing in the kitchen and won't move. She's just standing there. And she looks like she's in a panic. I'm like, she's like, there's a gecko under my foot. And she's like almost in tears. I was like, how long have you been standing like this? She's like, 20 minutes. I was like, I think you got him. You've been standing on this gecko for 20 minutes. I think you got him. Huh? I'm going to leave it there all day. It's okay, Erica. I'm going to get it. I'm almost done.
If you see any others, please, they're everywhere. The babies have hatched, like they're everywhere.
Oh my God. Got it. The babies have hatched. Cliff Nelson would love to see the Bammers and meltdown if Kelly beats Saban a second time in Bama. So would I. Stevie Wonder. Okay. Carson Kilgore, Matt, you did good selling on the Yanks and jumping on the Braves bandwagon because it's a disaster up in the Bronx. Yeah, I'm not even watching them. This is like the least baseball this is the least baseball I've watched, and I literally can't even tell you how long it's been. Taylor Hudson, good morning, Matt. Any idea when 18 and 7 will be handed out? Do you like this tradition? No, I don't. Well, I don't dislike it. I just don't care. I think 18 is cool because it kind of happened organically. And if it matters to the players, I think that's cool. I just don't really care. I've always said put a poop emoji on somebody's shirt. I don't care what number they wear. Just, like the player makes the number sort of thing. Like 9 is meaningful now because what Joe Burrow did wearing 9,
Yeah, I can't lock the door, babe, so just listen for him, I guess.
Okay. I'm almost done. Yeah, the 7 tradition. I mean, the problem, like Jamar Chase had 7 and then opted out, and then Derek Stingley had 7 and got hurt and opted out, and Kayshawn had 7 last year, and that didn't go great, and just they try to give Jonathan Giles 7. It's like, come on. Oh, Gregory, it's not a lizard. It's gecko. It's not lizards. It's geckos. That she is deathly afraid of geckos. I guess from a fan perspective, we put the head coach on a pedestal. I didn't think of it from your perspective. I understand it now. Thanks. Yeah, you got it for sure. Explain about why I call the coach by first name. Yeah. You need to get Drew a button as well. Do you think if the Saints stay healthy, that 11-6 is out of the question? I don't think 11-6 is out of the question. I mean, their Vegas projection is 9.5, so 9-8, 10-7. So 11-6, and listen, you're playing. You get 6 games against the division. I've told y'all. I mean, y'all have heard me talk about the quarterbacks that you play. I mean, you avoid Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Rodgers, Hurts. Run through the best quarterbacks, Watson, run through the best quarterbacks in the league. You don't play any of them. I mean, the best quarterback you play this year, Trevor Lawrence, you get that game at home. You play Dak, you play Kirk Cousins. Those are the best quarterbacks you play this year. Danny Dimes. So, yeah, I mean, I absolutely think the Saints could be an 11-6 team. That wouldn't surprise me. Stephen Fry probably just wanted to talk with E-Rock about her car insurance, and she squished him. The gecko. Got it. The gecko. I get it. Good one. She squished him. H.D. Williams, good morning. Is it true the Fighting Geckos want to join the SEC? Y'all are crazy. Let's see. Devin Johnson, Kelly Gross, good morning. David Tolson. LSU basketball team played a tournament in the Bahamas, apparently won a couple of games. Do you have any information to share on this? Yeah, so every 4 years, teams can go play international series. If you remember the year Ben Simmons was here, they went and played in Australia. They've played in Canada before, I think maybe Italy, something like that. So, LSU went and played 3 games in the Bahamas. They played down in Atlantis, and they played the first game, they were up by 20 at half, blew the 20-point lead, and had to come back and and rally, and they made a couple of shots within the final, like with 40 seconds left to win it. So that was good. And then they blew out the other two teams. Mostly those things I think are very important for camaraderie and sort of continuity and bonding. Like when you collect, because I mean, you think of it, when you have that many new pieces, especially, like you get on a plane, you travel together, you stay at a hotel together, you have all of your meals together, all your recreation, you're together all the time. It's not just you see your boys whenever y'all are practicing and then you go your separate ways. It's like people, like a lot of baseball guys talk about this. It's like baseball with the first road trip of the year. When you do that, you go and you're just all together all the time, and it's a good continuity thing for the team. So, winning the games and getting to go play somebody else is a good thing. It's a really good thing because you get to, when you go on those international trips, you get to practice before them. So it allows you more practice and game time before the NCAA mandated period begins in the fall. With Midnight Madness and before workouts begin. So it gives you extra practice time, extra exhibition time, and continuity together. So yeah, I mean, I do. I think it's the results of the games aren't nearly as meaningful as the opportunity that trip provides. Brady Beacom, Florida State better not beat LSU again in Orlando. I can't wait for LSU USC in 24. Agree on all fronts, man. All right. Anything else? Jonathan Martin, morning Scone. When can we expect to see Russ on the show? I will call Russ today and see. We always just start the week before the season. So I don't know if he wants to come on week 0 or week 1. Week 0 would be next week, not this Wednesday, but next, which he's certainly welcome to do. Or we can go to week 1. Let's see. Trivia Carter, good morning. Where you been, man? Slacking. The Truckee Meadows Community College Fighting Lizards. All right, y'all, I think we're done. Y'all smash that like button if you would. Appreciate you for being here. Subscribe up to the channel. Facebook, please like the Matt Moscona page. Share the post, as always. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, Matt House meets with reporters today around noon after practice. So if you're on Twitter and the such, you will expect to see updates. Russ is going to predict the 500 season. I don't think Russ is going to predict the 500 season. That's right. Russ did miss big time last year. What did he have him going? Starting 3-0. He had him starting 3-0. He had him going 4-7. Isn't that right? Then losing out. Anyway. All right, y'all. I think we're done. Thanks for watching. As always, shout out to Brock and Hudco. Need an orthopedist, you find yourself. Of course, the after hours clinic is open, so you can always swing on into Brock as an alternative to the ER. And Hudco Roofing would love to give you that free, no obligation roofing inspection. Do me a solid. Hit that Hudco link, which is pinned in the chat. Fill out that inspection form on the homepage. We'll get someone out to you ASAP. Okay, y'all. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you tomorrow for Morning Scone. Peace.